it do, folks? It's your boy Charles Younger here with Maryland Terrapins live on the Voice of College Football. Like I said, I am your host Charles Younger, along here with Professor G, Mark Gray. How are you doing today?
I'm hanging in there, man. Great to see some sun finally. I found it quite interesting watching the NFL's version of the gender reveal last night, called the regular season schedule announcement. I mean, I'm sure that's a topic for another conversation. So you might want to join me on OG Sports Rap on Sports Rap Network. Because other than that, I see that the Terps are slowly but surely finding places in camps. It'll be interesting to see, who gets invited back for July. And, let's get after it.
That's right. And you can catch Maryland Terrapins live on all your favorite audio platforms, including Apple, Amazon, Google, and Spotify. The Voice of College Football is all new on X. Join our ongoing conversation with you about the game we all love. There is no off season. And like I said, you did say we want to talk a little bit about some Terps making some rosters in the NFL. We want to talk about this young kid, Terrez Worthy, who transferred to Maryland from Temple. I want to break down Coach Loxley and Maryland Terrapins since they've joined the Big Ten, and how underwhelming it has been as a coming from the ACC to the Big Ten. Basketball-wise, been pretty competitive, but football, all the other sports, pretty competitive. But football has just been those one sport that's not clicked when it comes to playing Big Ten sports. Man, then we'll wrap up the show a little bit with our final thoughts. But Mark, I want to talk about this kid who just decided to join University of Maryland. Terrez Worthy transfers to Maryland from the Temple Owls. He's a running back. He's about 5'11", 180-pound running back. He played high school at Parkside High out of Salisbury, Maryland. And he brings a big play aspect to the running back position that Maryland has not seen so far. He also has some talent in the return game as a returning guy for Temple. He played at Lackawanna College in JUCO in 2023, rushing. He had a total of 1,490 yards and 10 touchdowns. And then transferred to Temple, where he had a pretty solid career. Has left 2025 was kind of short. He left to do some personal issues. He was on the Paul Hornung and Doak Walker Award watch list coming out of Temple, so he has the athletic ability, the talent to do it. And like I said, he brings a much needed depth to the backfield, explosiveness, which Maryland has not had any in the past few years. He did have a breakout game against UConn, where he had 12 carries with 95 yards, who the Terps have to play in week 2 of this season, so he might see some time here. And before I get to some points here, I want to play a little highlight of him. This is a game of Temple versus Howard. It's going to show some of his big playability here, so stand by and watch some of this highlights from ESPN.
First year as Howard's defensive coordinator talked about the eye discipline necessary. All the pre-snap motion the Temple likes to run. Cut back lane, slipping straight into the end zone.
Yeah, really good feet
for the touchdown.
Yes, that stop and go. That
down and long, pressure off the edge. Starks with some room to run. He's going to improvise, lowers the pads. Big collision near the sticks. And quick moving opening quarter, a game that started a half hour late because of weather, and we're still under the threat of some weather as we move into the early evening. Play fake, Simon takes a shot, post route, touchdown.
Unfortunately, he doesn't play defense, right?
Yeah, no, he doesn't, unfortunately.
24 yards.
Here we go, another.
Simon on fire to start this game. Play fake, lobs it, Chase with the grab, touchdown. And Temple pouring it on early.
Well, I'll say this in terms of the kid, because I mean the highlights against FCS team
Smith
may prove the John perception just a little bit, but he does have a jet. I'm anxious to see, however, it's going to run like that with Big Ten caliber defensive players. Probably a half second faster, 20 pounds or so heavier. I think that just by looking at that brief sample size, that he's that black that they have in the video game that they call an athlete. I think you can do a lot of different things with him, but I'm not quite sure he's going to be that consistent. Give him the ball 20 type of games, and run him up the gut, as much as you want to spread him out. You see that he works well in the passing game. You see that he knows how to turn the corner on sweep sand, run away from people. But those clips were against the FCS opponent. All right. I want to see, to your point, does he have that extra jet in order to, once you get around that curve in the Big Ten, it changes a little bit when you try to outrun guys in the secondary who are actually bigger than him, But the upside to it is when you're small, and fast, and you have that twitch about you. Oftentimes, bigger players have difficulty dealing with him in space, and that's one thing I think I'm interested to see how the offensive brain trust will put him in space against defensive players. Because even with the talent that's in the Big Ten, get him in space, let him make a couple moves, and then perhaps turn what could be a 3 or 4 yard game into 12 to 15 yards. At the very least, the sticks will move. So, and again, that's where you bank on Coach Loxley and the offensive brain trust to recognize that and to perhaps build a script of plays specifically for him that you sort of introduce at different times during the course of the season. But all in all, I mean, that little snippet did show something to be somewhat excited about. And when I'll tell you this, he's going to be the perfect check down back for Malik. That's the guy, put him out in the flat. He's maybe the third or fourth read. He gets out there, gets him, makes a move. Because there were some times last year that we saw, Chuck, that Maryland had the guy out there. He just couldn't make the move to get ahead. The backs, a little bit undersized. Maryland has an ACC offensive backfield. And I don't mean that as disrespectful, but if you old school like me, and you remember the days of 3 yards in a cloud of dust in the Big Ten when Woody Hayes and Bo Schembechler were like, we're going to run this damn ball. Stop us. And more often than not, nobody stopped them other than each other. And until Maryland finds that bruiser, they're going to have to find real creative ways to get athletic scat backs, if you will, out into the flat. I would project that young fella as somewhat of a watered down version, potentially, of like a Cam Scatterboo, that dude who's not that big, or Ashton Gentry, who weren't big in size, but when you got with them one-on-one, they're difficult to bring down. And I think those are the kind of things that may make him attractive and a significant contributor to this team.
I was thinking more like a Darren Sproles when it comes to like his size comparison, 5'9", 5'10", 180 pounds, but yet can be elusive. And to your point about 3 yards in a cloud of dust, that's a old statement in the Big Ten. Because look at the leading rusher in the Big Ten last year was Emmett Johnson, 251 carries, 1,451 yards at 5.8 a touch, 12 touchdowns.
The great teams in the Big Ten do play physical and run the football.
Yeah.
And the core tenets of that conference has always been big, physical offensive line. And not necessarily the biggest running backs, but the lines were so big and so powerful that they made a lot of guys actually look better than they were. I remember Michigan had a guy, and Michigan fan will remember the name Rob Lytle. Lytle was, to me, just a pedestrian running back, but they had those big nasties up front that were road graders, and he was able to do his thing. I'm old enough to remember Archie Griffin, who was an undersized back that went on to win the Heisman Trophy, but he was playing behind such a behemoth offensive line. And one thing about it, Woody Hayes was not throwing the ball around. Okay. He was going, it was, white knuckle, blood and guts. We're going to beat you up and you're going to like it. And that's what they did normally until they got to the Rose Bowl, where I think the Pac-8 schools at the time, or Pac-10 schools at the time, just didn't have enough girth to handle that. But it was their foot speed that made up for it. So this is a very interesting pickup for Maryland right now. And again, like I said, it comes down to what kind of packages that they can create for that man. Because I'm not quite sure I want him to take maybe 20 hits from the I formation or from the split backfield formation. I think based upon that small sample size that I see, we got to find a way to get him the ball in space and let him do his thing.
I also see the fact that him in the kicking game is going to be huge because he does have experience with the kicking game, and he might not be able to affect the team running the ball, but he as a primary kick returner, which is something that the Terrapins need when it comes to field position, shorten the field a little bit. Don't have to drive the 80 yards to get the touchdown. Get the ball to the 30, 35, 40-yard line, make it a shorter field for the team to start the offensive possession. Plus, he's competing with the incumbent starter, DeJuan Williams, who led the team last year in rushing with 532 yards, only averaging 3.8 yards a carry and 3 touchdowns. There's also redshirt freshman Solomon Foy, sophomore Eisen Howard, redshirt freshman Harry Dalton III, and junior Lean Wilson. So he's going to have some opportunity to make some plays in that backfield because none of these guys stepped up last year when it comes to making plays. So he's going to have some opportunity to make some plays. But I think, for me personally, I think his biggest impact is going to be in the receiving game and the return game for his team as a weapon out of the backfield. When you see him get in the backfield, so you better make sure someone has an eye on him because when he's in space, he's got that wiggle in the hips, that lateral movement, and plus explosive top end explosive speed to take to the house on any given play. So that's why I see from this kid moving forward, and I'm saying, like you said, another weapon for Malik Washington out of the backfield to give him a little relief when it comes to the pressures this year.
And what'll happen is once, let's say you get to a situation in the conference where first 2 or 3 games in, you're able to use the little dump plays, right? And they turn into big gainers. By the time that the video makes its way around to the other coaches in the league and they're scouting it one way, and then you can get creative off of that set. You know what I'm saying? All right. So at that point, it's kind of like if you run between the tackles and then you can hit them with a swing play to the outside. I think that's what Maryland can do with the short passing game, which makes Malik a more efficient passer. And really, you can pass to run the football in college football. Short dump passes when you have receivers who have that twitch thing about them. And that's where I am with the Terps. I mean, and to your point, you got to run the ball better. You can't have your leading back only getting 500. How many yards was that last year?
532 yards. And his second leading rusher was the quarterback at Malik Washington, had something like 400 yards, I believe.
You can see that's the problem. And I think that, for as much as you are signing the skill players, and it's been a good skill player acquisition offseason for Maryland, I need some big nasties up front, bro. I need some road graders, corn-fed, physical bruising maulers to make the O-line work. I mean, and it is what it is. And we saw there are a lot of guys at Maryland right now who are sculpted, who make 280 pounds look like 260. There's no body fat on either line. But what happens is when you get into game time, they're not winning battles at the point of attack. So I don't know whether that's physical conditioning or if they're just getting whipped. I don't know, or the techniques of the offensive line coaches may not be as state-of-the-art as they need to be. I can't put my finger on that one, but hey, look, championships are won in the trenches, man. You can't do anything unless you're protecting your quarterback and opening holes for your running back. And it would be safe to say that last season, that was an incredible disappointment for Maryland. So before I get excited about skill position players, I want some, and I'll sanitize it here from some of the coaches that I've been around for a audience, but I need somebody to knock your nether regions into the dirt, right? And that's what it is at that position in any sport. Sorry, it is what it is.
Yeah, and like I said, he is competing with, several running backs who are around the same size, around 6 feet, 210 pounds. So there's no variation between the style of running backs. They're all pretty much similar. And the linemen, if you want to look at the size of the lineman, there's no lineman. The biggest lineman on the team, I believe, is 335 pounds. And I think that's Latrell Perry, who is their best returning lineman at left tackle. Michael Hershey is center, who's only around just under 300 pounds at 290. Eli Ba, who is around 330 pounds off the right tackle. So they don't have fantastic size on the offensive line. They have a couple guys, like I said, who are over 300 pounds, but most of them are around 290, 310 pounds. So they don't have those big maulers that you, like you say, that are known for Big Ten football. Unless they're, somehow getting the weight room and, are deceptively strong, they're not your earth movers that we're used to seeing in Big Ten football.
You're right. And again, the trenches are where they're at. So while Maryland is doing an extremely good job of getting skill position players, where's the beef? Okay, let's be clear about it. I remember Clara Peller back in the day, and with Wendy's. Hey, where's the beef?
Where's the beef?
Because you got to have beef in the Big Ten. And I mean, sometimes, man, when you're used to playing the ACC way, you kind of haven't broken the shackles of the way that you built and constructed the legacy of your program. And I think that, and from being down closer to Virginia Tech and you grew up, what did Frank Beamer do? He had beef. I mean, for as much as you want to talk about Michael Vick and Marcus Vick and everybody else that was down there at that time, that offensive line was a monster. And
Beamer ball was defense and special teams too. So, that's the key. It was Beamer ball. And then you look at UVA, they had, great defensive, they were built with, their linebackers and their safeties, and they ran great running backs.
Yeah, the sharper boys. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And, you had, great linebackers, you had great running backs too. They had, you had the Barbers, you had, Thomas Jones. So Maryland's going to have to do something like at that level where they're going to possibly just, they're going to have to deal with the defense, or deal with the return game, deal with the special teams, and some magic in the offense to create some kind of mismatches with these players to spread defenses and do something to move the ball. Because, like I said, they had glimpses of fantastic play, but then they would always stall out in the second half of the game because either through fatigue or the fact they just didn't have the depth, whatever. So it was just, I don't know what it is, but this coming season, they're going to have to find a way to make sure that they do not fall apart in the second half like they did all last year.
Well, you're right. Absolutely. And I think that's where the new blood on the coaching staff has to step up and help to make the kind of adjustments during the intermission that change the dynamics of games. And quite frankly, I think Maryland came up a little bit short in terms of halftime because they were a notoriously fast starter last year. They'd get up and get out. But once you started getting into the money games inside the Big Ten Conference post-Wisconsin, coming out in the second half, they were more than likely dominated. It was almost as though they would try to get off the script, or when the defense adjusted to the script of the first half and those plays stopped working, Maryland didn't have they didn't have a reaction to it, right? This year, I think, as much as anything that we talk about as it relates to roster construction, player performance, and what have you, I think the brain trust has to be better at the half. I'm sorry. There are a lot of games that are won at the halftime by teams who were trailing at the half because in that, 15 minutes or so that they were in the locker room, the coaches were able to find some kind of secret sauce, and then it changes the direction of the game. But Maryland's a bit of I think the roster construction for the Big Ten Conference and the gold standard has to be when you start recruiting, looking at Ohio State. Okay, and why do I say that? They put 11 players in the first round of the NFL draft. Just various positions, and that to me. Now, again, there's a difference between having a $36 million operating budget and a $9 million operating budget. But you got to find a way to get those kind of hits. And hopefully these transfers from a Temple will help jumpstart Maryland in a fashion the way the HBCU transfers helped out Coach Prime in Colorado. And I think that may be something down the road we may have to really look at if the Terps are going to make a run. And what I would say to everybody in Terp Nation, if Indiana can win the Natty, why can't we? That's all I'm saying.
True.
No diss to Indiana, because I grew up with Bobby Knight as a basketball school. I remember there was this reporter I was good friends with in Atlanta, Fred Khalil, who used to help Lee Corso do his coaching show. So I understand the dynamics that are at play here, but there are far greater and more intelligent minds than my own who are associated with the program that I think you got to step up the talent acquisition piece and the halftime adjustment piece, because that may win you a couple of more games. And at the very least, at least get to whatever bowl season looks like with the expansion of the college football playoffs.
That's true. And speaking of winning games in the Big Ten, Maryland joined the Big Ten in 2014. Can you believe how it's been that long? 2014, they've been in the Big Ten.
12 years.
And they've won 50 conference titles across all their sports. And none of those conference titles have been in football, because Maryland is under Coach Loxley's 37-49 and 17-48 in the Big Ten. Quick little, like I said, Maryland overall has been in the Big Ten football is 30-80. We're going to go a little backwards in time here for you. Last season, Maryland was 1-8 in the Big Ten. 2024, 1-8. 2023, 4-5. 2022, 4-5. 2021, 3-6. You get the hint. They have done nothing but regress in the Big Ten play after having 3 consecutive bowl appearances with a 3-0 in the bowl games. You know, that Duke Mayo Bowl was a long time ago.
Yeah, but, for Locke's sake, if there's a bowl game to be played, let us hope it does not involve mayonnaise.
Yeah.
Okay?
No mayonnaise.
Because one thing about it, for those 2 victories that he got in Charlotte, he got 2 big dumps of Duke's mayonnaise on the big hat. Remember that?
Yeah. I'm playing for the Pop-Tart Bowl. Give me the Pop-Tart Bowl. I'll be
now,
the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Exactly. Pop-Tart. You know,
everyone likes Pop-Tarts. Who doesn't like Pop-Tarts? Yeah.
I don't know if you don't like, to me, if you don't like Pop-Tarts, you're not American.
No.
We'll put a tariff on you and ship you out.
Pop-Tarts are more American than apple pie. But
okay.
But
wow. For the next generation, you may be right. You may absolutely be right about
Pop-Tarts. Pop-Tarts are a very important part of my childhood. Those afternoons where you're like, hey, you lazy, you don't want to do anything. 2 them in the toaster. You know,
nothing like
later,
my favorite winter breakfast was Pop-Tarts and oatmeal.
Yeah,
you know, breakfast of champions as when I was a youth.
People try to get all fancy with their toaster strudels and
just give me some basic strawberry Pop-Tart. I don't even need the icing on it, really. All right, I don't need the sprinkles. Give me the crust and the strawberry on the inside and warm it up. Oh my God! And you know something? Now that you brought up the Pop-Tart, it is one of the most versatile foods going. You can really eat it for just every meal.
Anything, yeah. Hot or cold, doesn't matter. He's like, hey, you pack yourself a quick lunch, like a little snack, boom, boom, Pop-Tart, you ready to roll. I mean,
you can put like, if you really wanted to do what I used to do is warm them on light setting in the toaster, and then when you pull it out and flip it to the back side and put peanut butter on it. Oh man. Something I was playing around in the kitchen with one day, and it changed my breakfast eating habits. So those of you kids who are on campus, Pop-Tarts and peanut butter, get a variety pack, and you will never be hungry and have the munchies in your dorm again. I'm Professor G, and I approve that message.
But let's get back to the point of Maryland's Big Ten play. What is it about this team? They've never had a winning record under Coach Loxley in the conference. They've made a couple of bowl games. They made a couple of winning records overall, but that's due to their soft not preseason, but soft non-conference schedule, playing teams, in the FCS, playing lower level FBS teams. So is it just because of the fact that they build up a certain level of confidence against these teams like your UMasses, your UConns, and your Towsons, where they get a little bit of a cushion and then kind of float the rest of the season? Or is it just the fact that they're not able to get the top end players to who they can likely compete against the big teams? But we saw them last year. They were in all these games. They did. It's not like they were being blown out, except for
with the exception of Indiana.
Yeah. But because that's Indiana blew out a lot of teams, so it's not like join the club. But is it just the fact that is it the depth? Is it recruiting? Like, what is it about this team? Like, they seem to be just this close to competing. Like, they should have beaten Washington. They should have beaten Nebraska. They should have beaten UCLA. There's so many teams they should have beaten. They were close to beating at home too, and they choked the games away. Took those games away in the second half. What is it about this team? Is like when it comes to Big Ten players, like, I don't want it anymore. I think I'm good. It's time to go home.
I'll say this. There is a series of about 5 to 7 plays each game that determine its outcome ultimately.
Yeah.
Maryland doesn't make enough of those 5 to 7 plays. And we saw last year that the right play was called in the right moment. Receiver opened down the field. Malik drops the ball into a perfect position against the defense, and guys dropping passes. Okay. Penalties, undisciplined nature, holding calls, offsides calls, and things of that nature. And the thing that's most frustrating is, I'm going to tell you what a big problem is. They don't have a home field advantage. And Terp fan got to really, really be committed to coming out to the ballpark and representing, especially the students, especially. First off, if you go to University of Michigan and you go to the Big House, I think you're facing 120,000 people. I think if you go to Ohio State, you're somewhere in that same vicinity. Maryland has a 55,000 seat stadium max, right? And there are times when the stadium is taken over by the other team's fans. Fans and coaches will tell you that players draw energy from fans in the stands, period. They need that energy. Football, of all the sports, is driven by emotion. All right. When you get the momentum on your side, and Maryland, certainly as it relates to the home games, doesn't get a boost from their 12th man. Even at Texas A&M, you look at it, they call their fans their 12th man. I mean, when it comes to Maryland, I mean, I can't even say they put an 11, their 11th fan in the stand. I'm thinking 14 and 15. I mean, for real, it's crazy. And that is a big thing. It helps players lock in, focus, get emotionally into it, stay vested. It gives them a lift. Remember, there were a couple of times on 4th and something in the fourth quarter where they needed a lift on defense from the fans. They never got it. This whole thing, to me, has to be a collaborative. Yeah, you want to get the talent. Yeah, you want to win games. But at some level, the fans have got to, give them a lift. And I'm used to covering college football and 80,000. And you know how it is down in Blacksburg. And I'm talking, I've seen games at 5, 6 SEC venues, and it is a totally different game in Maryland. But Maryland, as a program, has to win to excite the fan base consistently. But the fan base has to get behind them because there is enough talent. And you got Maryland kids on the team. It's not like you got guys who are coming in from California and different other places. You have homegrown talent, which everybody has always told me, if you recruited the entire state and got the best of the players to stay home, you could win. I don't think it gets much better than Malik Washington, and it didn't work out last year. Ask yourself, homeboy, why is that?
Yeah, and this year they got Zion Ely coming in, who is the number 2 overall recruit in the nation. So that is like another reason why, hey, if I'm a freshman coming in to watch some football, it's like Saturday afternoon, it's like, hey, what are we gonna do Saturday? I don't know, let's go watch the football team. It's like, hey, who's this Zion? I heard this guy's supposed to be really good. Let's go check him out. That's box office. You need box office to get people in the butts and seats. And you have a possible box office quarterback in Malik on the Austin side, possible box office on defense in Zion Ely. So now you just got to fill in those gaps. the kicking game style. It's a return game. You got to get, be consistent throughout the game. You got to have the students want to stay past halftime, because I noticed a lot of times too last year that after the half, the students would leave early. They would they try and go to whatever party they're going to. They're trying to go out, do what they want to do. It's like, you got to find a way to keep these kids in the stands for all 4 quarters. So it's interesting what's going to happen with this team this year when it comes to trying to engagement. Student engagement is what I'm looking for. That's what I was looking for. How is this team going to engage the student body into being excited about watching this team play?
They have to win
in College Park. Yeah,
and that's what it is. They have to win, and you almost have to go like 4 or 5-0 like they did last year. You can't have any 60-point games on like homecoming on national TV. A couple of the really most disappointing performances that they had last year. And that's where the Big Ten network becomes both a blessing and a curse. You want to see your team get national exposure each week, your conference, because it helps the overall brand of everybody. But if you're consistently losing those games, you are damaging your brand. And unfortunately, with the national television opportunities that the Terrapins had last year, oftentimes, particularly homecoming, that was a CBS game. That was a nationally televised game, man. Your homecoming, you got a packed house, everything is there, and they laid an egg. So to me, those are the kind of things that inhibit them from having a home field advantage. It also is detrimental, and you and I had that conversation after that game, because when you're in a place like College Park that is a half an hour from Capitol Hill and a half an hour from Baltimore, you got 2 reasonably large size markets in your home area, and that's supposed to be able to base where you put the gate around it, the fence around, and nobody comes in and gets your talent. But when they see that on TV over regular broadcast options as opposed to cable TV and streaming, that's a devastating blow. So my argument is, when they get their national television moments, they have to be extra special. Now, coaches will tell you that has nothing to do with what goes on the field. I would argue with said coach that that's how you get the better caliber of talent, so that you can start looking at Michigan and Ohio State in their eyes. Maybe it's time, and if you're able to beat them somehow, maybe you can go into Ohio and get a couple of maybe, 3 to 5 star offensive linemen. I think Maryland is a hotbed for skill position players, right? Versatile athletes, twitch skills, running between 4 flat and 4.4, right? There's a ton of those guys around there, but you got to get beef from the heartlands and the Midwest. You know what I'm saying? You got to go into Iowa and give somebody some scholarship money that's a big old-fashioned offensive lineman. You got to go into Wisconsin. You got to go into Indiana. You got to go into places that folks may not be comfortable with and get some of those studs to come over here. Because, I've been associated with not the sports program, but the University of Maryland. This will be my 14th year, okay? So I know that when kids get on campus who are from out of town, they embrace the college experience here because it's different than it is in many of those other places around the country where, with all due respect to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, you'd much rather be in College Park. Okay.
No doubt.
No disrespect. And Tuscaloosa is a great college town, but it's still Tuscaloosa. You can't go into DC into the South or up to Baltimore, or if you really want to go see the Liberty Bell, it's about a 90-minute, 2-hour drive. There's so much in here that you can sell, right? I don't know who, and again, this is a new world order of recruiting. Oftentimes it's about how big the check is going to be for the players. Maryland may be behind the 8 ball as far as that is concerned, but that doesn't mean that we can't go into Nebraska. Hey, Corn Huskers. I'm thinking corn-fed offensive linemen. You know what I mean? Go to these places. Don't let talent, come to you. You got to go find it and go into places where you may be uncomfortable. All right. And, we got some social times that make it difficult for coaches to be comfortable traveling in certain spots. If you're a certain hue. But you got to turn over those rocks and get some of those guys and bring them here. I do believe with the campus, even since you've graduated, has expanded so much. Even with the new trolley thing that's going through the yard right now, Maryland may not have the grandest and richest program in America, but the university itself offers so many wonderful opportunities for the academic pursuits while you're playing athletics. I don't know what the game strategy is when people are going into their homes, but I'm gonna tell you, I've been to a lot of college towns, and College Park ain't bad because there's a cosmopolitan aspect to it. And then you got the DC media market, which can get your brand out there, and the Baltimore media market. Baltimore is, I think, a top 20 media market too. So you put everything into the mix. I mean, whoever's in position to direct their strategy for recruiting, I would offer up those as suggestions to broaden the scope of your talent base so that when you start getting the Malik Washingtons and the new kids that's coming in from Temple, you've got the infrastructure around them that can help them succeed. And Maryland's got to get bigger, physical, and tougher in the trenches, to your point, to win more games. Big Ten is a trenches conference, Chuck. It is what it is. And that's why, for as much as Fernando Mendoza, and I'm not taking anything away from his season, which was absolutely brilliant. I was there for the 60 burger that he put up against Maryland. But he's not able to do that with those road grading protectors in front of him. And that's where Maryland's got to get. They got to get some dogs up front, man.
Maybe they should go borrow JMU's players, because that's what Indiana did. Got a lot of JMU players to come in and fill some spots. But back to your point about national TV games, I'm looking at the schedule right now. Maryland has family weekend at home against UCLA. That's probably going to be on a big game on TV. Homecoming against Rutgers. They have Military Appreciation Day at home against Wisconsin.
Those are all TV games?
These are all national TV games, and their last game of the year is against Penn State. But the biggest game of the year is going to be October 10th in Columbus, Ohio, against the Ohio State, which is going to be that's going to be one of those games. It's going to be like Indiana last year, where it's like, do we even want to watch this, or we just want to just cross your fingers and hope for the best?
What's the song? Ooh, nah, 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 nah. Yeah, man. Ohio State, the big house. But you know something? With every great challenge comes the potential for a great reward. And I know Ryan Day never reloads. He just retools. Yes. But we can dare to dream, and let's say, hey, they go up there and steal one. That may open the doors for them to be able to go back up there and steal some more, because that is a fertile hotbed. And again, I don't know if the allegiance is to go straight up south to find speed, fast players, but if you're going to find the guys that are going to help those guys succeed, I believe they're in Iowa, Indiana, the barren wastelands in Michigan, you know what I'm saying, Wisconsin. And we all know Nebraska's always got a surplus of healthy-sized young men who can play the offensive line position that may be overlooked. Now, does anybody on the coaching staff want to go hang out in Lincoln or some of those other wonderful ports of call in Nebraska? But I think we need to hang out there. I'm pretty sure a lot of guys don't want to spend any of their free time recruiting in, say, Iowa. I would do that, okay?
But
spend your time in places where you got, corn-fed dudes who maul people and protect quarterbacks and open holes for running backs. I think you change the dynamic of the program immediately.
Yeah, we can appeal to some of those country boys because, we are the DC, metro area, but we're only like an hour away from, BFE country, out here in parts of Maryland, parts of Virginia. It's like, it's country as hell outside of DC. So if we can still appeal to these country boys who are like, I'm not sure about the big city, but hey, you're not far from. And Maryland has a very good agricultural department too, so we can also appeal to that side too as well.
That's true too. And but, really, the intimacy of College Park makes it a unique kind of college town. It's a college town in a cosmopolitan area. Whereas when you go to the SEC, as an example, you're going to maybe a oversized cosmopolitan piece of property in the middle of Dixie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, I'm sorry, that's just how it is. So for those who may be looking for other options after some of the things that have been levied at that particular conference as it relates to the Voting Rights Act and stuff like that, here it is. I mean, Maryland, and I know, having watched the way that Southern recruiting goes, you can say just about anything to a parent or a kid, about the dynamics of where they're going now, right? And when you look at, some of the things that have been said by Lane Kiffin this week, backed up by Steve Sarkisian at Texas too. Those were two salvos that, interesting ears listen in a certain fashion. And recruiting is cutthroat. Make no mistake about it. It always has been. It always will be. Your kid gets ready to sign at one school. Recruiter will tell them, you don't want to do that. You'll never play for anything meaningful. You'll, never get drafted, blah, blah, blah. And then, Maryland can pull out, a whole list of people who didn't get drafted and are still doing their things, such as Stephon Diggs, I might add. All right. So again, it's nasty and cutthroat on the road, but I would definitely roll up in there, and it's a diverse campus. All right. So it's not like, white people who want to play major college football but not go to their school in the home state can feel at home in Maryland. I mean, that's one thing that you don't have to worry about when you're on that campus. So, I like to be visionary in my concepts for, making change. And I think that's one of the things. I think Maryland can win a lot of recruiting battles against people in other Big Ten states. And I don't know whether they've thought about it like that. I think recruiters got to get outside their comfort zone and find and make it a mission. Take regional parts of the country where you're looking for a specific type of player. The Midwest would be, now I'm saying that there's not a speed there, because we've seen a lot of guys from the Midwest who had great speed. Charles Woodson, a Cleveland guy, comes to mind. I'm trying to remember where Desmond Howard is from, but he's a Midwestern guy. He lives in South Florida now. But Maryland needs to take the message in their brand and then start selling. You say the agricultural program. I'd say sell journalism for people who may be looking for a platform to study that craft. I mean, it's only the school that gave you Scott Van Pelt. So, among others, Kevin Blackstone is on staff. So there are a whole lot of reasons to come to Maryland for more than just football. I just think that from a strategic recruiting standpoint, you can't go after kids like the Southern schools do. You have to go after kids in the Midwest who want to be seen by their friends and family on the network, right? They want to have a chance to win. And then they also want to have a chance to get a degree and then move into something perhaps other than sports. And then that brings up the whole notion of, opportunities on Capitol Hill for recruits. I mean, I don't know if they're just selling football and athletics when they're out on the road, but the university itself has so much to offer, so much. And you know that as an alum, okay? I know that as faculty. It is what it is. And I'm not trying to be a homer here, but what I am saying is sometimes people can be encumbered by their own perception of where they are and what they have and not know how to put a spin on it. Because, Chuck, everything is about spin these days. Everything. Every phrase that you hear these days, it's spin. And Maryland's got to find the right spin to get the kind of recruits, particularly on the offensive and defensive fronts, that are hell raisers. People
you
who just
hear that
blow
communications
up.
department? Learn just use that spin for communications departments. But well, we are here at Maryland Terrapins Live here on the Voice of College Football. You can catch Maryland Terrapins Live on your favorite audio platform, including Apple, Amazon, Google, and Spotify. The Voice of College Football is all new on X. Join our ongoing conversation with you about the game we all love. There is no off season. And speaking of the game we all love and the players we love here from Maryland, there are a few players who have signed as undrafted free agents with some NFL teams. Starting off with, we have wide receivers Octavian Smith Jr. and Jaleel Farouk, both signed with the Ravens. Wide receiver Shalik Knox signed with the Vikings, joining Taj Bradley, another fellow former Maryland Terrapin there. And then Alan Heron, a offensive lineman who signed with the Saints. Now, the guy excites me the most between these guys who signed is Shalik Knox, who was Malik Washington's big play target. He had 44 catches for 714 yards and 6 touchdowns. I believe he was in the top 15 or top 20 in the Big Ten in total yards receiving. Farouk is a big possession receiver. You know, he had 545 yards on 58 catches.
Mm-hmm.
And also, by the way, not speaking of Knox ran on his pro day, he ran a 4.3240 on his pro day.
That's probably who got invited to camp.
Yeah.
If you less than 4.3, you're gonna get an invite to somebody's camp, and that's good scouting by the Ravens, because they're looking for a big playmaker to help Lamar Jackson. And when you bring in a new coach, it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out, because the Ravens do in fact need to make some upgrades at the receiver position, and they got to get better at the skill position and stop relying on Lamar Jackson to basically carry the team. And I think a couple of these guys, I really do like Farouk though. I think Farouk is a diamond in the rough. I've thought about that all year long. Matter of fact, I was kind of shocked that he didn't get drafted. But I think there may be a perception about the team, and it's a copycat league we're talking about, the NFL. If one scout thinks your program is desolate as it relates to impactful potential NFL stars, you kind of get blackballed. And I think that might be the perception of Maryland right now. But the numbers don't lie. The numbers show that the average Terp who gets his shot sticks around. Whether you're talking about Erica Bagu, Sean Merriman, my goodness. I mean, Vernon Davis. I mean, there have been years. And I think that there are a lot of those type. Lamont Jordan. I mean, let's be real. So it's not like Maryland hasn't had a pipeline there. It's just that, you're in a different conference now. And I think that the ability to adjust to go elsewhere and find the difference-making players. Because you can basically field all of your skill position players from the DMV. I'm not quite sure you're going to be able to fill the offensive line spots and have the type of depth that you need in what is a brutally physical Big 10 plus 8 conference right now, right? And it's kind of weird to me calling the Big 10 with 18 teams.
It's just using the Big 10 plus 8.
Yeah, that's what it is, man. And you'd like to think that the first step is just get to the college football playoffs right now. And to me, it's the trenches where it begins on the offensive and defensive fronts. If those two areas can start raising havoc, playing like a angry pack of canines, I think Maryland will be all right, certainly as it relates to a bowl team. And then again, here's an X factor as far as the college football playoffs is concerned. You want to be in a conference like the Big Ten now, because the Big Ten and the SEC ultimately are going to merge, or there's going to be some kind of nationwide morphing of the conferences together as we move towards this larger than life college football playoffs. Maryland is in a good spot now. You know that you're going to be in a conference where if you're really good, and when I say really good, maybe 2-3 conference losses, and if you got 2 undefeated teams playing in the conference championship, it just makes your bid when they get inside that selection committee room shine brighter. Come on, man. There's so many things that can work once you get more wins than losses. And I think that's the perception of Maryland right now. They can't win by a lot of recruits. They're in close games. They don't make enough big plays. Hopefully that paradigm shifts, because we all know it takes 1 year, like we saw with Kirk Cignetti in Indiana, to change the dynamic of the program. And then the year after that, they won it all. Indiana football will never be the same again. And the next stadium that they build will probably be Cignetti Field.
Cignetti Field, definitely. But you're right, man. Like, for Jalil Farouk's he's a physical receiver. He's about 6'2", 215 pounds. Not extremely fast. Ran a 4.62 in his 4-yard dash. Now, kind of a mid-tier vertical of 30 inches and a 9.5-inch broad jump. So, but he's going to be like, he is your prototypical slot, position receiver. He's going to get you 8-10 yards to catch, and not much after that. And Octavian Smith is also a big play slot receiver, but Shalik Knotts, if the Vikings could be a sneaky pick,
one of the steals of the undrafted.
Yeah. And also Alan Haran, who only gave up 3 sacks in 12 games and 24 pressures on 521 pass blocking snaps for Maryland Terrapins last year, signed with the Saints, and he qualified for Pro Football Focus 83rd out of 632 qualifying offensive tackles. So he's in the top. He is that puts him in at least backup level offensive lineman in the pros right now. So there's 3 guys who might be on an opening roster when it comes to the NFL teams moving up in 2026.
That would only enhance the brand of the program, especially if they're vital contributors to playoff contending teams. But goodness knows, man, I did not realize that Maryland's record since coming into the Big Ten is that far under 500. I mean, that's a shocking stat right there. And I think the paradigm has to shift. And with all due respect, if you're going to be one of the heavyweights in the conference, which is what I think Maryland can be, you're going to have to start dominating or winning the rivalries that are close to you. And I would think that they got to find a way
Rutgers.
to beat Rutgers.
You got to beat the Illinois. You got to beat
Rutgers.
Purdue,
you got to beat Illinois.
You got to beat the Vanderbilts. Not Vanderbilts. The
Northwestern.
Illinois, Northwesterns. Yeah, you got to beat those teams. The teams who would be considered on your level when it comes to Big Ten. You got to beat those teams, and then once you build up you got to beat your Nebraskas. Who are not quite the team they used to be. They're not the Nebraska of the '90s like they used to be. Wisconsin,
Tom
Purdue,
Osborne is still a congressman, right?
Yeah. And then Nebraska lost their quarterback too this year. What's his name? He transferred. What's his name? Escaped me. Quarterback. They call him Mini Mahomes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he transferred out. So that's a possible window for a possible win there. So looking at their season starting off, we know with Hampton, UConn, Virginia Tech, UCLA, Nebraska, Ohio State, Rutgers, Illinois, Purdue, Wisconsin, USC, and Penn State. So
wow, so
it's going to be.
So Nebraska's going to write a check to Hampton, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. So hey, Hampton.
Just asking. I never thought in my day of was it Steve Taylor quarterback and Mike Rozier? I never thought that I'd see the day where Hampton would play Nebraska. I have to say good job out of Hampton for getting a check. I just hope they go back home with everybody in their right faculties.
A check's a check, But we're going to wrap the show up with a couple final thoughts here. I'm not sure if you were talking about earlier about Maryland and it's what they have to offer and just, what they're willing to spend on this football program. But have you heard about this Maryland freezing plans to cut 150 jobs and their budget cuts for the University of Maryland coming up here? How is that going to possibly affect the football budget, the athletic budget when it comes to raw? Is it just going to be primarily focused on, administration and teaching? Is it going to be something like that? Is it just going to be kind of like, just all across the board cuts, or is it just going to be, not hiring any more janitors or not hiring any more field crew to take care of that gorgeous field at Siku Stadium?
Wow. First off, I think athletics budget is something different than what's in the general budget fund. So they're supposed to be two separate entities that are fueled by different revenue streams. When it comes to athletics, contributions and corporate partnerships are what's supposed to drive you. On the academic side, it's about enrollment, but federal funding too. And I think that's the dilemma that Maryland faces on that side of the campus as it relates to continuing to move it forward through no fault of its own. Okay. The university is continuing to fight the good fight. But in order for the dynamic to change, big donors who want to win contribute to the athletic program. And we see that all over the country. And then savvy athletic administrators cut deals with big time corporations to sort of sponsor them. I know that Jeff Bezos' wife has been giving away a lot of money around the country to like HBCUs. I think that Maryland's athletic program could use a benevolent shot from somebody like that to help them get over the hump. That way you can add more to your NIL coffers. It gives you a better chance to play for the, elite NIL players. And then when a player is looking for a place to land, if it doesn't work out, then you got them here. So to me, it's about fundraising. People got to give to the athletic department, and you can't complain if you're not giving and your team is not winning. Because I know 5 to 7 former Terps who have it just kind of written in that every year they're going to give their predetermined amount of money back to the university to help the program. So, I would say that if Boomer Esiason can make TV commercials for insurance, why can't he lead the charge to be a fundraiser for the school that gave him the platform for him to become the dude that he is right now? You know what I mean? And I was a Boomer guy. The guys that I know played with him. Okay. So, he could be, and that's one other thing. You know how other teams seem to like really embrace and embellish the great ones, right? Boomers should be in that pantheon. I don't know why he's not a part of being the face of the program after he left, especially when he's been sitting on CBS desk for 10, 15 years as an NFL analyst. I mean, that stuff carries weight these days, I would think. And again, I'm not making any decisions. I don't have any inside scoop of what the mindset is inside the athletic department. I'm just offering those up as what I deem to be feasible ideas that really don't cost to execute other than making a phone call or making a road trip. And I'm talking about recruiting and getting someone, hell, even a Dominique Foxworth, reach out to him because younger people can see him on First Take and all those ESPN platforms, and he's a thing. I mean, there are so many great Terps doing so many great things that are in the peak of their, current career and even second career with the media types. I don't think they embellish Scott Van Pelt's degree enough. I mean, those are the kind of things that sell these days. And I'm by no means a marketing strategist by any stretch of the imagination, but I think Maryland should go ahead and position itself as, the rising tide that only needs you to be there. And they would go a long way towards generating money. And if you're going to win in the Big Ten, you got to play the financial game with the likes of Michigan and Ohio State.
And with that, this has been Maryland Terrapins Live here on the Voice of College Football. I am Charles Runge here along with Professor G, Mark Gray. Tell them what you got going on this week when it comes to your content out there.
All right. Well, I'm on Sports Rap Network. That would be Monday through Fridays from 9 to 11 p.m. East Coast time. And that's 6 to 8 out west. And we just talk, with a barbershop and an urban edge to it. So check us out. We got a mobile app, Sports Rap Network. Download it, holler at me. And I'm also on Substack, Sports Rap OG, and conventional social media. I'm at The Sports Groove on X, Facebook, and Instagram.
And you can find me, Charles Yonga, at CharlesNyonga, MLBbro.com. I make a couple appearances on the Sports Rap Network with my
Hey, Chuck, can I jump in about
Yes,
this weekend on MLBbro.com? We're celebrating the 80th birthday of Reggie Jackson. So,
Mr. October.
Yes, sir. So I'm doing a special piece that I'm in this lab with right now working on. So it figures to drop this week. MLBbro.com. We cover black and brown American baseball players. And check us out. There's something there for everybody, y'all.
Yeah, it's something for the people. And so you can catch Maryland Terrapins live on your favorite audio platform, including Apple, Amazon, Google, and Spotify. The voice of college football is all new on X/Twitter. Join our conversation with you about the game we all love. There is no all season. And I want to thank you for joining me here today.
Hey, look, don't Wally Pip me next week. All right. I'm going on vacation. I need some sun and some relaxation. But don't Wally Pip me, okay?
No.
Don't. But then again, if I was going to get Wally pipped, I'd get pipped by Darius Brockett. So if Darius is around, I get it.
Around, yeah. I'll see Darius on the campuses of Sirius XM occasionally. But this has been Maryland Terrapins Live on the Voice of College Football. For Mark Gray, I'm Charles Yonga. Thank you, and see you next week. Thank you.